Welcome to Violin Adventures number 250. Well, we've got a big repair. Hope you enjoy. Okay, this thing is bigger than I am. So let's see who wins this battle. We've got to take the top off because the ribs are broken, and so we need to support the ribs. But first off, let's take the tension down. Isn't this a big violin? Well, we're going inch by inch. Okay, we've almost got the whole thing open, and I should have been recording the last few sounds. They were glorious sounds as the top popped open. It's just very gentle persuasion. But I just wanted to mention these knives are super, super sharp. They're just razor sharp, and so I tend to just cut myself if it slips or if I just pass my hand over the blade. Okay, this is what we're repairing. We've got a crack all the way around here. And then we also have a bunch of little cracks right in here. Okay. First off, we're going to cleat the crack on the inside just to make sure it stays where it belongs. And then we'll be putting some linen on. I've got a really nice piece of linen which is very strong and thick, the old kind of linen. I'm going to go iron it first. The next thing we want to do while the glue is heating up, we're making a new batch of glue, is we want to do a dry run with the clamps and the cleats. So I'm going to put you inside the base. This is the only time you can be inside a base, okay? There you go, and you're sitting on top of the sound post. There we go, that's just great, right like that. Put you over there like that, okay. Hi there. We're going to do a dry run, see how these cleats can be clamped on. Okay, coming over here is where it starts splitting off into. Okay, this is our dry run. I'm so glad to do that first because some of these clamps that have the metal little metal strips in here apply pressure differently, and that helps the crack. And then you can see I have some facing out and some facing in, just going back and forth to find what works best in that area. Okay, we've got our glue. It's nice and new and really good and sticky, so I'm happy about the glue. And so we're doing a two-step repair here. We're going to first secure the crack. So I'm going to take these cleats off, glue the crack, and then glue the supports onto the crack, and that's the first step. Okay, finally, as you can see, I'm using many more clamps than I did in the dry run. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I'm satisfied now. What happens is once the glue gets in there and once you clamp it, it's got different pressure, and so it opens up in different places. So, and like I said before, it really matters which direction the clamp is going and what kind of clamp. So here we've got it. And I'm pretty mad at these two clamps. They don't turn well, and they're a little cheaper made than the original ones. I think these are copies, and they didn't do a good job. So we're going to let this dry for at least a couple hours, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. Here we are. We've got to get ready for the next step. While our base back there is drying, I've got to prepare our clamps. Now, these are base clamps, but they're not quite big enough for the lower half of the base. So I'm going to take these clamps and cut out about half of this so that we can get a bigger mouth here that will fit onto the bottom of that base when we close it up. All right, there it is. We've got our repair there, got support, and then linen over that. So it's looking real good. Everything looks strong and stable. So it's time to get the top back on. Time for a story. All right, it's time for another story, and we're reading in Violins and Violinists, and chapter 8. We're going to just read a little bit about Joseph Joachim. Joachim was born on June 28, 1831 in Hungary, within the small radius which has produced three other great musicians, Haydn, Hummel, and Liszt. He began to study the violin when he was 5 years old. In 2 years, he made his first public appearance. He played a duet concerto for 2 violins and orchestra with his master and a solo on the theme by Schubert with variations. He continued studying, and by the time he was 10, he met with Mendelssohn and played in a concert. He was then under Mendelssohn's guidance in the zenith of his fame, and for a boy of 12 to appear in concert and earn not only the applause of the audience but also the praise of the critics was something very unusual. Then the next few pages, it tells about all his travels and where he played and all the people he met. And I'm going to skip on to the end here, and it says, the jubilee of Joachim's life was as a violin player was celebrated in Berlin with a great ceremony and with unusual honor. And in England, a demonstration was made in his honor by the public, who subscribed a sum of about $6,000, with which was purchased an instrument of wonderful beauty, a celebrated red Strad, which was presented to him at a public meeting. This celebration was, however, quite eclipsed by that of the 60th anniversary of his first public appearance, which was held at Berlin on April 22, 1899. A grand concert was given at the Philharmonic with an orchestra consisting of 200 performers. There were 90 violins, 30 violas, 21 celli, and 20 double basses. And of these, all except the double basses had been pupils of Joachim, the violas and the celli having been his pupils in chamber music. They had come from all over Europe to take part in the festival. Nearly half of the violins were concert masters, and many of them famous soloists. Joachim entered the hall at 6:30 and was greeted with a deafening fanfare played by the combined trumpeters of the military band stationed in Berlin. The audience rose in a body and added its cheer to the noise of the trumpets. A large armchair, beautifully decorated with flowers and wreaths, was reserved as a seat of honor for the great musician. The 7th number of the program was left vacant, but when it was reached, the orchestra began the introduction to Beethoven's concerto. No soloist was in sight, but Gabriele Wieterwitz and Marie Soldat, his most celebrated women pupils, came slowly down toward Joachim's chair, one carrying a violin and the other a bow, which they placed in his hands. Joachim, however, did not wish to play and did not yield except under the force of persuasion. And then he said, "I have not had a violin in my hands for 3 days. I am in no mood to play. Moreover, there are many in the orchestra who can play it better than I, but I don't want to refuse." So Joachim played the great concerto and received an ovation such as had probably never been accorded to him before. Then he conducted Bach's concerto in G major for strings, which was played by 66 violins, 57 violas, 24 celli, and 20 double basses, and this brought the concert to a close. The concert was followed by a banquet in which there were 800 guests, and the festivities lasted until 4 o'clock in the next morning. No violinist was ever more respected or beloved by his pupils, nor did one ever wield a more powerful influence in the musical world. Well, that's the end for now, and we'll take up another story next time. The Hebrew Minute. Kumu barku et Hashem Elohechem min ha'olam ad ha'olam v'barku Shem kavodeka umromam al kol beracha utila. Stand up and bless the Lord, or Hashem, your God, forever and ever, and bless his glorious name, which is exalted above all blessing and praise. If you know where this is found, please leave it in the comments below. Well, here it is, a beautiful day. Let's have a look at the bees and see what they're doing. Well, here we are in the shop. What a beautiful sight. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your wonderful comments. Thank you for your thumbs up. And thank you to the new subscribers. And until next time, bye.